All right, hey everyone, Mark here. How's everyone doing today, Thursday afternoon? My name is Mark P. Markets. Welcome to another GreenBridge Investing market analysis. I'm not simulcasting today, which means I could spend all my attention on you guys and girls. Okay, cool. So here's what we're gonna do. I wanna make this quick because we have a lot to cover, and I have a bunch of questions from our other chat that I wanna address right away in this thing as well. So I want to talk about Bitcoin real quick. I want to talk about the stock market real quick, dollar, gold, and then we're going to go right to your questions. So I'm going to try to make that as quick as possible, okay? So let's get this thing started, all right? So this is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Also, if you'd like to know more about GreenBridge Investing, all the information is in the descriptive portion of this video. So if you just click on the Show More button, all the links to our 7-day free trial or the Trade of the Week email, all that stuff is in the description, okay? So you can check that out. All right, cool. And also, if you're new to the channel, please register so that you get an email notification from YouTube. And if you like the video, please press the like button because it gives me valuable feedback. All right, so let's first talk about Bitcoin because, you know, that's on everyone's radar. Now, here's the thing. So we had this rectangle that you see here. That's a reversal zone, all right? A resistance zone where there's a high likelihood of a bearish reversal. We got the reversal the other day, okay? Now, Bitcoin has not followed through. We got the sell signal, but then we got the other day, right? We got this bullish pin bar situation around that, 56K area. And it took out the high yesterday during the FOMC meeting. Now, the reason why we didn't send anything out on this is because the location is still a resistance area. Not going to take a buy signal in a resistance area. You know, Bitcoin is in a bullish trend. We could still make that argument. We can also argue that there's a higher low over here off of that pin bar low. Okay, but we still have to recognize the reversal zone, and I'm not going to buy right into that. You know, we still have that swing trade position on. We have a swing trade from 48.5. We still have 1/3 of it or whatever. So depending on how this candle closes or whatever, we may make an adjustment to that and just exit the 1/3, because the other two, obviously the other 2/3 were profit, reached our profit targets. So if this thing pulls back, we're looking at 50K, all right, around there. That's the next support. That's where I would be interested in a buy signal, at least to give it a try. Now, if we go to 50K and we take out 50K, that's not a good sign, all right? If we take out that support, here's the thing with that. This thing may be confirming the early part of the broad wave 4. We've been talking about that broad wave 4 for a while, and the market just doesn't confirm it, all right? Now, the initial leg was this, you know, this bearish structure right here could have been the initial leg, which could have been the A leg. Remember, I'm sorry, back here. This could have been the A leg, all right? Now, this bullish move to the new high could have been the B leg, and this might be the C leg, but usually the C leg is a little more dramatic and it doesn't hesitate like this. So it's hard to really put it into that structure. So we have to see. But if we do take out that support, then I would be more convinced that we are in the broad wave 4. And if we are, that doesn't necessarily mean Bitcoin goes into a bear market, but it may go into a consolidation that persists a lot longer than people would like, okay? Kind of like gold. So keep that in mind. We're watching for that. But until we see confirmation of that, we keep that idea in the back of our mind, all right? Which means if I see a reversal at the 50K support area, I'd be open to giving it a try, okay, as a swing trade long. We don't short these things, by the way, as all of you are regulars know. All right, anyway, so if this current candle turns into a lower high and we close like this and we take out this candle, this doji low, that would be a new sell signal, okay? Anyway, all right, so that's Bitcoin. Let's talk about the stock market real quick. And let me just say hello. Hey, HS, good to see you. Steven, hey, nice, thanks for joining me. All right, cool. Hey, DJ and Shay Shank and Poor Trader. Hey, all right, you guys, thanks for joining me. All right, let's take a look here at NSX USD. So this is the stock market, right? Now, as you guys know, DJ especially knows, I've been looking for this pullback for a while, right? We tried UVXY a couple of months ago. That didn't work out very well. And then I sent out SQQQ I sent it out a week ago, okay, based on this candle here. We had to deal with some nonsense, but now look what we got, okay? So this thing is minus 346 points. There were plenty of warning signs about this. Now, yesterday, there was that nonsense with the FOMC, and that's why you can't react or overreact. I even put it in the chat room. I said, I'm not going to react to this. All right, we had this resistance here. I wanted to see how the market closed for one, and it tried to close strong. It tried to do its thing, but I'll tell you what really kept me, I wasn't convinced that this thing was going to go anywhere or that we should get out of our SQQQ. And I'm going to show you what it was. It was the US 10, because when Powell, whatever I don't even know what the guy said. Okay, because that's how much I pay attention to it. I don't even know what he said. I look at the price action, and I want to see how the market interprets what he said. I was watching this, all right, which is the 10-year note, the treasury bonds, and this thing was not, I mean, there was this tail on yesterday's candle, right? Yesterday's red candle. It looked like this at the time. It looked like that. And I'm like, if Powell said anything that was very compelling about whatever, about keeping interest rates low or something, whatever, if he hinted at anything, the bonds should have done better than that. Okay, yeah, we can argue that's sort of a pin bar, but the bonds should have turned green, right? Like the stock market turned green. It was a big party. Everybody was having a good time, this and that. And I was like, I don't know about those bonds. And here we are. So what does this mean? Bonds pushing the lows like that. That means interest rates are going higher. That's just the way it is, right? Lower bond prices, higher yields. The stock market doesn't like higher yields. It makes a mess of a lot of things for a lot of people. So that is what kept me convinced that, you know what, no reason to get out of the SQQQ. We're holding it, and we're just going to sit in that and see how it does. Now with this large red candle, this is just the beginning. Okay, this is a nice bearish sign for those holding that SQQQ. Now the SQQQ, by the way, that's a long position that takes advantage or capitalizes on the NASDAQ going lower. All right, so instead of having to buy, someone had asked me about buying puts in the Qs, but the puts were very expensive. And I could buy the SQQQ, and these were June calls, by the way, so they were a lot cheaper. And they offered, what I also liked about them was I was buying at the money at the time. I was buying the $14 call, which was at the money at the time, which gives me a better delta. With the Qs outright, I had to buy like 15 points out of the money or whatever it was, which gives me a much lower delta. Same with, like, I was looking at AMD as a proxy. Same problem with AMD. I had to buy 15 points out of the money to get a reasonable premium, and that's too much. So I could get at the money for around the same price, or I have to go 15 points out of the money. I'd rather go at the money, and that's why I chose SQQQ. Anyway, how is that doing, SQQQ? Oh, nice. So it's up today, what? Back to where we got it. I mean, we bought it at 14. We're at the 14 strike now. Okay, nice. So this is good. Those premiums should probably be a little bit more than what we paid for them, I'm betting, because we moved up so quickly and the premiums tend to inflate. Anyway, so that's what I want to mention about that. SPX USD, which is the S&P 500. I warned about this over and over and over. If you watch my previous videos, you'll see it. Why would anyone buy stocks up here? That's a potential double top situation. Price action started to get funky. On top of that, just above, right, just above this zone right here is a reversal zone. Anyway, why would anyone buy there? Okay, so, but if you follow like mainstream news and all that stuff, of course they're throwing a party around those prices, and they lure you into buying things that, the risk is very high. Now, it doesn't mean all stocks are going to be equally affected, but the thing is, market stocks in particular are going to feel the pain on something like this. Okay, so let's take a look. What's a market stock? Like Walmart. Like Walmart's going lower. What's another market stock? Let's see. Goldman Sachs is a market stock. It's a banking stock. Pin bar, right, was pushing higher. Pin bar, bearish pin bar, right at the peak. Interesting. Okay, what's another market stock? Let me think of one. Market stock. QCOM. That's a NASDAQ stock, right? Qualcomm. These things tend to follow the market, and they're most affected by the market. Highly correlated stocks. Look at the lower high that was put into place. that was the other warning sign, the other red flag about the NASDAQ and everything coming back. There are a lot of stocks that were just putting in lower highs. It's like this when the NASDAQ is near a high and a lot of stocks are producing lower highs, that means there's only a few stocks leading the way, right? Stocks like Google, which have been on their highs. And that's not a good sign. A couple of stocks should not be leading the whole market. It should be a broad rally. Most stocks should be doing a similar thing, not most of them with lower highs. So that was a red flag that I noticed, and what was more compelling as far as having a short position on. Okay, anyway, so those are those things. Now let me jump over to the dollar real quick, because again, this is what I think is the key catalyst behind this. Here's the DXY, which is the dollar index weighted against a basket of currencies. Look at this nice consolidation, higher low situation, and basically about to give a buy signal, right? I talked about this higher low. I said if we get the higher low in the dollar, that's not going to be good for stocks. Well, there's the higher low, and it looks like we're establishing that today. So if we take out the high tomorrow, 92 even, and we close above that, we'll have a new buy signal in the dollar. So the dollar may be reversing its trend. We have a higher low that was put in back here, and now we have another higher low. Bearish trends don't produce higher lows and higher highs. They usually fail at a resistance and then push lows. So this trend may be changing, and that again implies something about interest rates. So this is actually a negative for gold. And as you can see, gold was trying to make its way back here, and now we got this outside bar on gold. That's a lower high. Okay, so based on this, I mean, gold is likely to test the low again. But here's the thing. So gold is tricky because, gold is obviously reacting to the stronger dollar. But gold is affected by other variables, right? Not just the dollar. So we have to keep that in mind. There is a physical shortage of metals. So that may come into play at some point, and that's why I'm still willing to give gold a chance, at least the gold mining stocks like we have. So I'll be looking for the higher low or the double bottom in gold, all right? Because again, this is paper gold, this is the CFD, and if that gold and silver shortage, has anything to say about anything, eventually this should catch up. And then who knows? Some other catalyst may come along the way. Oh, gold is now the safe haven place, blah, blah, blah again, this and that. So maybe we'll see a change there. But that's why I don't get too wrapped up in fundamentals and theories and things, because they can steer you the wrong way. Just have to go by the chart, and there is a lower high here. So we have to keep that in mind. It doesn't make a big difference to me because I'm all in on wheat and precious metals. And it had a nice little push there. And we'll see where it goes. I mean, I'm not going to add any more. The broader trend on this thing is still bullish, and you can see we had this broad and tedious correction which followed gold, and now it's trying to break out and do its thing. Keep in mind, something like WPM doesn't just depend on gold, right? They have other parts of their business where they're involved in other metals and other things. Same with something like what, Newmont Mining. I mean, they don't just depend on gold. Look at Newmont, man, that's a nice push, and gold didn't even do anything, okay? Gold didn't even rally. So, I mean, 25, 30 points on gold is nothing. Nice push on these stocks. So there's no reason to get out of them. I'm just going to stay in my WPM and just let it figure itself out, okay? Instead of me trying to go through all these fundamental puzzle pieces. All right, so those are the things I wanted to cover real quick. And also, one more thing, dollar franc, which I'm interested. I may send this out because this is obviously a reflection of the dollar. We haven't called any forex trades in a while. We've been very slow with these because the forex market has been a real pain over the previous few months. Now, after the fact, you may say, what pain? This looks easy. Well, it's not easy when you have a lot of conflicting signals all over the place. So, but this is now much clearer. Obviously, this is a play on the dollar. It looks just like the dollar index, right? So this may be a nice swing trade long. Risk can be pretty well defined here, and it's got plenty of potential. I mean, especially if that dollar has another leg higher, this thing can easily go 100, 150 pips, something like that. That's all we're looking for on something like that. So that may be one that I send out. So keep an eye out for that for those of you that trade Forex. Again, if you don't trade Forex, don't worry about it. There's plenty of other things to do. All right, so those are my things I wanted to touch on real quick. Let's get to the chat and see what questions you guys have. Now, like I said, we had some questions in the chat room I believe, let me see. There was one, I think it was RVN. I think Michael was asking about that. I think it's a coin. It's an altcoin, Raven coin. I think that's, DJ, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, you're working, okay. So I guess DJ won't be able to correct me then. But the thing is, I think Michael asked about this one. And look, it's a nice high or low situation. A lot of these coins, they've been getting a lot of hype. Okay, I mean, I watched a few videos on YouTube. The hype on these things is just, it sounds compelling, right? You have these guys, they do some research, they say, and oh, and look at this, and look what's in their pipeline, and look what they're going to be doing next, and the developers are very transparent about blah, 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 and it sounds very compelling. Oh, you know, I like that idea. I'm going to buy some of that coin, right? They make it sound very compelling. But the reality, the question that I would like to ask all of them is, where were you guys back in June of 2020 or July of 2020? No one was making altcoin videos saying how great they were and blah, 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 and buy, you know, ADA and buy this one and buy that one because they're going to go to the moon. Where were these guys in June? Okay, so they weren't making these videos back then. So that just shows you how much they really know. What they are doing is they're amplifying the herd mentality, which is a role that, you know, traditionally the news would play. I mean, 20 years ago, there was no Facebook. 20 years ago, I mean, there was, but it wasn't like it is now. There was no Twitter. There was no YouTube. There was no place for this herd mentality to proliferate like it does today. Back then, you had to watch the financial news, and that is what would amplify these moves. Okay, oh, of course, none of these coins existed. All you had were stocks back then. NASDAQ stocks were the thing that everyone was getting involved in because of the moves. But, you know, today, you have YouTube, you have chat rooms, that, you know, you have all these different places where the herd mentality can proliferate. That's what you need to realize about a lot of these things. Like a quick example, because while a common thing that you will hear in these times is, well, it's different this time. It's different. It's not different. The human nature doesn't change. Technology changes, but human nature stays the same. So here's the thing. You know, you had this situation with ADA the other day. In fact, let me pull that one up real quick. And now I'll talk about this one from a technical sense, Michael, in a moment. But so here's Cardano, right? And all this nice stuff about Cardano and it's the future and blah, 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 blah. And this move here occurred, right? Why? Because it was, they got listed on Coinbase. Oh, wow, it's a big deal. Okay, great. But the thing is, that's like buy the rumor, sell the news. Okay, so I'm not surprised to see it give this back because people are piling in thinking, oh, now that it's on Coinbase, it's going to triple in value. No, people that bought at the bottom were anticipating that, okay, and it has tripled in value or whatever, and now they're dumping it on you. So you got to be careful with these things, all right? So that's where charts can be helpful in terms of recognizing opportunities that are not obvious. Because when they're obvious, they're no good. All right, and the problem with that is sometimes it works, and that type of situation is no different than a casino. You go to a casino, and sometimes a slot machine pays off. Sometimes, maybe the guy next to you just won $10,000 on the slot machine, and oh man, this slot machine may go next because it's right next to it. That's irrational thinking, but people may think that way. Why do people play slot machines? It's the same concept. So, you have to be careful of that. Anyway, so as far as this goes, there's resistance up in here. So I don't like RVN in terms of location right now. I'd prefer a pullback. This can be a double top. And, if you're going to buy this thing, you're better off waiting for somewhere near these range lows at around 12 cents. Okay, now, I've talked about some of these things before, and sometimes, that herd mentality catches on and it just goes. But you're gambling with that, right? So you can buy a little bit and hope for the best in that situation, hope that you don't top ticket, which, imagine all the people that bought up in here thinking that, oh yeah, this thing's going to go, it's going to go to $1 or whatever, and they bought the top, right? This thing may test the low, and that's when you want to get involved, when it's testing the range low, because that's when people are banging it out. Okay, they lose faith in it, and you can pick it up at a lower risk. Forget about the lower price, it's lower risk. because others are also going to be looking to buy it cheaper, right? So your probability is more in your favor that it at least tries for another leg higher. But if anything, look, we have a potential double top. This may turn into a range. Broader trend is clearly bullish. All right, so I'd be looking in this type of situation, broader trend bullish. I like to see support levels, and you're not at one right now. Anyway, so that's RVN. Okay, I want it to be, yeah, DJ. Okay, cool. Oh, by the way, Henry Raines from our show, from our Talking Market show, he called Upstart, right? Now, this was an earnings play. He mentioned this in the chat right here on the YouTube chat. He mentioned it before we started the show on Tuesday. He also mentioned it during the portion where we picked trade of the week, and we looked at the chart. Okay, it was right here at the time, and like, it's an earnings play, so we're not going to call it as trade of the week, and we called DOT instead. And the earnings came out, and this thing is up $52. Okay, some people actually got into this trade and made some nice money. So not only did they have earnings, but there was also some kind of announcement, surprise announcement, and this thing went berserk. So very nice call from Henry. This is a great example of how a chart doesn't always clue you in to a move like that. The chart said nothing about this, okay? So that's understanding fundamentals and understanding the potential of earnings, and also understanding what type of stock this is. Is it a low float, a highly shorted stock? Because if it is, it has the potential to do something like that. Now, of course, the earnings could have came out the wrong way, and this thing would have went nowhere. But imagine if you bought, and some people bought some options on this, right, and did very well. Imagine if you bought, a March option for maybe a dollar or so or whatever. So your maximum risk is $1 or $2. Or you bought maybe an April option, just one. All right, you would have made like 10 times your money in a move like this, which is ridiculous. But it's a nice home run. Anyway, thanks, Henry, for that. Hopefully he'll give some more. He called Nike, by the way, too. Nike was today's call. He mentioned it in our chat. And because they have earnings, N-I-K, or no, it's N-K-E. And so now I'm sure everyone's going to pile into this one. And, who knows how this one will do. But they have earnings today after the close. Technically, this is not in a great location, okay? You're at a quadruple top here. But you can basically look at this as like a double top. And, buying into this now, that you're taking a lot of risk. But if they come out with some kind of surprise, maybe it'll pull a Henry move and it'll work out. So, again, you can buy cheap options, and the risk you're taking is, it goes nowhere. And whatever you buy, like if you buy tomorrow's option, because they're good only for tomorrow, if you buy the March options, whatever you pay, like if you pay $50 for them, that's going to go to zero in like a minute if it doesn't work out. Okay, so just to keep in mind. Anyway, but that was his mention. He mentioned that earlier today. Okay. So that was that one, RVN. Now we had a question about one called MESO, all right? And question about this one. Now here's the thing. I don't know about this price action. Generally speaking, I mean, it's been in this consolidation for some time, and it looks very sporadic, which tells me it's low volume. It's like a low volume stock. I mean, this thing is what? It's $9, so it's a relatively inexpensive stock. I'll tell you what I don't like about it. I don't like the series of lower highs. You have a lower high here, okay? You have a lower high. I don't even know what that is, if that's a bad tick or what that is, but that's a lower high, and you have a lower high here. So yes, you have this attempt at a bounce, right? You have this support over here, and you can argue that the broad trend going back to April, you could say it's near a broad lower, it's near the low of a broad range that's correcting a larger bullish trend. You could make that argument, but the recent price action is just too sporadic for me. There are better looking charts out there. So if I was going to get involved in something like this, first of all, I would definitely want to see test of support. I wouldn't trust it here, okay? Because this could be a lower high, and on top of that, you have a potential head and shoulders situation right here, which could be a bearish sign. Is when you have the shoulder there, you have the head, and you have the shoulder over there, right? So this thing may take that out. I don't like it. So I would hold off on this one as far as the swing trade goes. And then we had a question about ATOM, the coin, I'm assuming. And so look, nice push. While Bitcoin is having a hard time, some of these coins are starting to do their own thing. Okay, I've noticed that there's a number of them now that are starting to move on their own, which is a good sign in general, which means, you know, we can rely on their charts a little bit more instead of just depending on Bitcoin. So the more I see that, the more confidence I'll have in calling some of these as swing trades, coins that I otherwise would ignore. And you have this situation where you have a range breakout, okay, on Atom. Nice range breakout, but you can't chase this here. You're chasing, if you buy this now, you're facing, for one, it can still fake out. You're still in this fake out zone. That's one. For two, you still have this resistance to take out. So the question is, how much risk do you take if you buy this now? Well, you have to look at this low over here, okay, which is what, 17, basically the high 17s. And this thing right now is at 22 or almost 23. Are you willing to risk 5 points to hopefully, right, hopefully make, well, like the first resistance you're facing is 26. So you're risking about 5 points to make 3, you know, around 3. That doesn't make sense, right? The reward risk isn't attractive relative here. Now, if it breaks out and keeps going, okay, great. You know, then it would be more justified, but obviously there's no way to know if it's going to do that. So that's the risk you face when you're buying this now. One way to compensate for that is you take a smaller position. Okay, so like for example, instead of buying, you know, 100 coins or 50 coins, you know, you only buy 10 coins or something, right? You make it smaller so that if it goes to that range low, it's not as, because, you know, there's a better chance that it does at this point. Especially if the wind starts coming out of this sector, and as bullish and as optimistic as everyone is, you don't see it coming. All right, some piece of news, something can knock the wind out of the sector, and now you're caught. Right, so I'd rather buy near a higher probability area, and that would be around the 17, 18, maybe even $20. Okay, it might be worth it to hold it and see if it tests that range low again. Trend is clearly bullish for now, all right, but that's the support that I'd be looking for. Okay, so those are those. I think I answered those 3 questions from the chat. I don't think there were any more than that. Again, if you're watching this after the fact and I missed your question, just ask in the chat. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. And follows him for long term. You can't. Oh, thanks, DJ. I appreciate that. Yeah, DJ's been with us for a while. We have a number of people who've been with us for a while. Irina too, she's been with us for a while. Okay, Shubham, all right, cool. So Link, nice pump yesterday, but looking, okay, let's take a look at that. Link is a swing trade that I called a couple of weeks ago based on a Bitcoin buy signal. Now yesterday there was a nice pump, and as we can see, it went into our target zone again, and it just fell out of it. Okay, so this is just characteristic of a range consolidation. It doesn't really say much about, you know, it just says range bound. I can't really characterize that as weakness because we're not taking out any supports yet. If anything, it's just a consolidation and a potential trend continuation pattern. The broader trend is clearly bullish, right? So at some point, a breakout is more likely. At this moment, I would still give Link a chance. Okay, I mean, you could see the trade information here on the chart. All right, so our stop is at 25.50. If the stop gets taken out, well, then that's it. You know, that's the risk that we're willing to take. Otherwise, you know, you let the market do its job. I usually, if I see situations like this where a sell signal becomes apparent, this is not even a sell signal yet, by the way. We have to take out today's low. But when I see a sell signal and it's clear, I'll go into the chat and I'll tell people, hey, listen, if you're in this and you don't like the idea of it pulling, this is your opportunity to either lighten your position or reduce risk or do something. Now, I don't send out adjustment trades, like I won't send out a text to everyone saying, okay, get out. I won't do that a lot of times unless it's painfully clear. I won't do it because I don't like to overreact. I don't like to react to noise, all right, because I know better. And often it's better to let the trade just do its job and you interfere as little with it as possible. I can't tell you how many times I've reacted to a trade like, oh, it doesn't, let me get out of it, it doesn't look good. And you get out for no reason, you take a small profit or a small loss, and then the thing goes your way and it goes to all three targets. How many times has that happened? Right? So that's why once your risk is defined and your targets are defined, let the market do its job. Minimize yourself as much from the equation as possible. Usually, now it doesn't mean it's always going to work out. You're going to get stopped out as well, but a lot of times you'll find that this thing does its job. Okay, if your rules are sound, like and DJ mentioned, our rules have been pretty good, and they're very simple rules, and they keep us out of trouble. At the same time, they also keep us out of a lot of trades because we're very conservative, and people get frustrated with that. But over the long run, you come out ahead. Everyone that wants action and they take all kinds of trades, for some reason they don't make any money. I wonder why they don't make any money. All right, so anyway, so let me go through the chat here, going through the chat. So that was Link. All right, going to ask about a weird double pin bar on Bitcoin, but you made it very clear at the beginning. Okay, cool, no problem. Still hoping for all entries on Bitcoin breakout. So now, here's the thing. There are some, like, look, Litecoin is typically a Bitcoin follower, and Bitcoin is going to have to do something here, all right? Like, for example, like Litecoin looks just like the Bitcoin chart. The places to buy Litecoin, just like Bitcoin, were in these areas here. Now, this is asking for trouble. You're near the range high, if anything, right? Or you're in the middle of the range, which is a very random area. That's why you can't jump into these things too early. You're better off waiting for support and a signal to develop at the support. Again, I speak from a swing trade perspective. I'm not talking from an investment perspective, which is my... Yeah, okay. So, sorry about that. I guess YouTube didn't like my foreign language lesson there. Anyway, all right, so I should be back on now. Okay, so Rick, let's see what you heard from Portugal. Please update DOT. Maybe same situation. So DOT typically follows, but recently it's been stronger, right? So here, let's take a look. I'm going to put up against Tether here, and look. So DOT is in a consolidation, right? Now we sent out DOT as trade of the week. We sent it out, and it was Andrew's call, by the way. It wasn't mine. I was going to send out DOT as a trade to our members only, but then Andrew said, no, you know what, we don't have anything else for trade of the week, let's call DOT. Okay, fine. So I sent out DOT, and on that pin bar, right, pin bar off of range low. So right now, I mean, it's not doing anything, so I wouldn't worry about this yet. It's still holding up inside of a consolidation. Now, if it takes out the low, let me see, in fact, I'll show you the trade of the week here. Let me pull it up. It's on, I believe I have it on the Bitfinex chart. Let me see here. Where's my Bitfinex chart? Or is it .USD, USDT? Let me see. Hold on. I'm going to pull it up here in a moment. Here. So against the Bitfinex chart, right? This is the chart that I sent out as the trade of the week. And as you can see, the stop is at 31.50. That's below this pin bar, right? The low of this pin bar here is 32.13. So I gave it a little room. So if it goes there, that's really, at least for our swing trade, that's where we want to stop, just stop the risk, eliminate, get out, and that's it. We're done with it. Okay? Stops save money. This blue box here is the target zone. So that's what we're looking for. Even if it goes halfway into that zone, we'll be happy. It doesn't have to reach all three targets. All right? And if we have to exit earlier, we get out earlier. Trend is clearly bullish, and this is just a higher low developing. Now, if there's some news that knocks the wind out of the entire market, it doesn't matter how many consolidations there are, it's going to break. They'll break their supports. So just something to keep in mind there. But I still like it. I don't see any reason to make any adjustments to that right now. So thanks for mentioning that. Okay, Rick, and thanks for joining us from Portugal. All right, so Shubham, I don't understand how you explain the concept higher low or higher high, and if it goes bearish. Okay, so let's bring up an example for that. It's a good question, and I'm going to mention the NASDAQ 100 because that's a good example. Now forget all this information that we have here. Let's just go back a little bit. Let's go back to February, all right? And this is what we had in February. Clearly, you can see a series of higher lows, right? That's a higher low. Here, let me pull up another. Here's another higher low. And where you have higher lows, they're usually followed by higher highs. Okay, those are swing highs and swing lows. That's what characterizes a bullish trend. Now, when the trend changes, the market stops doing that, right? So instead of when we get the higher low, we should get the higher high, but instead it fails, right? We get a lower high, which is over here. That is a sign of change, not necessarily of a trend reversal, but of a change. It could go into a consolidation, right? Some people just think they think in binary, like they think, oh, if it's not going higher, it must be going lower. But in the market, it can go sideways, right? So you have to keep that in mind. Anyway, so where there's a lower high, that's a change. Now the question that we have to ask is, does it make the lower low? And if it makes the lower low, how does that behave relative to the previous low, which was back here? Because you can get fake outs and stuff like that. So as you can see, the market struggled there a bit, right? So we had the lower high, lower low, people thinking bearish trend, but then it fakes everyone out, gets a lot of people short, and then it goes here, right? And that's where we were just yesterday. And back to this resistance. So in this situation, this low that it came from is not a higher low. It's a lower low. It's relatively lower than the previous low. Not dramatically lower, but it is a lower low. So that's a sign of change. And now we're screwing around or messing around this resistance. And look what we got. Okay, so lower high. And now I'd be anticipating a lower low unless we don't get one. All right, so I hope that explains that. Thanks for asking. It's a good question. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Just running through the chat. TZ, could you check out UFIU USD? Sure, UFIU, is that UFIU SDT? By the way, so for people that are asking about these altcoins, and good Tweezy, TZ, thanks for including the USDT on that. If you want to know about a coin, just please mention USD after it. Okay, so UFIU, I keep saying U. It's YFIU. All right, I just can't read today. So YFI is the coin. And all right, so let's take a look. We have a broader bullish trend, right? I see higher lows and higher highs up until recently, but we have that so far, right? That means something. I want to see support and resistance levels. Yeah, I know. Thanks. DJ is my personal fact checker. So whenever I spread fake news like I was just trying to do, he corrects me. Right, so I was trying to call it UFI, it's YFI. So thanks for correcting me. Here's the thing with this. So you do have this range bound situation, right? It was working its way higher. Now it's sort of in this consolidation, right? Defined by these lines. And you could say, well, what about this up here? Well, that was a nice try, but now we have this lower high that was established. So that means range bound most likely. Now here we have this little higher low that just developed, between the recent couple of days. So at this point, you can define risk from there, but see, how much is this thing? Okay, this thing is $36,000. Is that right? I guess that's right. Okay. So in a situation like this, for one, I mean, you have that's kind of a lot of risk, right? So the low here is 34.7. I guess it's sort of like trading Bitcoin, right? So you're going to have to look at a few thousand points of risk in something like this, and you have this little mini higher low that is it's a good start, but this is more appropriate for like day trades compared to a swing trade. The problem with the swing trade is you're facing this mini range high. Now I would expect that high to break with this little higher low in place, but this thing looks tricky. So this is like a 50-50 area. I don't like buying inside of a range for a swing trade. I mean, it doesn't mean it won't work. It's just, I'd rather get something that's more in my favor. So I'd rather wait for something near the range low. Now, it may not go there, but that's where the better probability is. Okay, so that means around 30,000, that area right there, low 30s. If you can get a test of that area, kind of like back here, and get some structure with that, or even if it pulls back now, right, if it pulls back and tests the 33 area, and you get like a little mini double bottom right here, that would be more acceptable than this. All right, at least you can define your risk better, and there's more of a chance it turns, since others are will be stepping in buying there as well. That's the whole point of a double bottom. So I would wait for those situations. If you're more aggressive and you're like, well, screw it, I want this thing. All right, well, you can consider taking smaller size, right? So if it does pull back and takes you out from that support, it's a smaller loss. And if it just keeps going, breaks out and starts testing those highs, at least you have a piece of it. So sizing can help you with that as well. I'm talking about this from the swing trade perspective again, just to be clear, not from an investing perspective. All right, so let's see what else we got here. So that was a good question, TZ. So Stephen, hey, time for me to, okay, no problem. Oh, all right, no problem. It's 5 a.m. CET. Where, I don't even know where that is. CET? Is that Central, oh, Central European. I guess that's Central European time, I guess. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for joining, Stephen. Shayshank, okay, good to wait for now. Okay, right, and there's nothing wrong with waiting. In fact, waiting, hold on, I'm getting cut off here. See, and I noticed something. I get cut off from YouTube. There's a correlation to the weather because the weather is bad here. And I notice whenever the weather is bad, that's when I start getting cut off. And that's because of the way the ISP is all connected here. So someone confirmed that theory for me, by the way. Okay, anyway. So yeah. Sorry, that's the weather and the because everyone is on their internet at the same time, I get cut off. Okay, so yeah, it'll come back on. Okay, I should be back on. Yeah, all right. Tell me about it, Ramana. Time for Starlink is right. Tell me about it. Okay, I think I should have this fixed again. No, the problem. I'm going to tell you what the problem is. It should come back on here in a moment. Okay, so it just goes in and out. Should come back on here in a minute. Okay, I should be back on now. All right, now, so like I was saying with Nicola. All right, now let me move on to the next thing here. So that's Nicola. I like the location, just not a good time right now. All right, let me see what other questions I have. Tezos. All right. Okay, here we go. So Tezos. Here's the thing with Tezos. Consolidation. We have a consolidation, just the other coins. There's no reason. All right, hold on. There's no reason to buy Tezos right now, at least for a swing trade. I don't like swing trading these things anyway. Yeah, it keeps going in and out. Okay, I'm just going to try to get through this. So Tezos, like I was saying, all right, so like I was saying with Tezos, you have this consolidation. The range low is around $3 or something like that. So in this, okay, so the thing with something like Tezos, this is not a double top, and here's why. Here's why this is not a double top. All right, so I'm going to just try to run this through. So like I was saying, if you didn't hear me, that's definitely, I wouldn't consider that a double top. That's more of in the middle of a range. Okay, so some situation like Tezos, you want to wait to the range low. All right, that's where your probability is better, if anything. It may not go back there, but that's where the probability is better. So again, if something like this, if you're trying to get involved in something like this and you do like it as a short-term swing trade type of situation, then the way to compensate for that risk is smaller size, okay? But it's hard to time these, especially these garbage coins. I mean, I call it a garbage coin. I know it's up a lot and this and that. And some of these coins, they're doing this whole staking thing, like I mentioned, where they're trying to incentivize people to hold on to them and to buy more of them. And that's all nice and everything. But like I said, when they pull the rug from this, when the market gets the rug pulled from it, doesn't matter. It's all going to get, people are going to be banging out because whatever. And that's the time to invest in them. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, all these gurus that are talking about all these great things now. Oh, buy Cardano, buy this one, buy that one, because they're going to be 10x in just a week, right? Where were these guys in July of 2020 when all these things were at their bottom? Okay, I mean, something like VeChain, right? I mean, look at this thing right now on its highs. That's all really nice. This is great. But where were these morons when? Look, I mean, let's go back to, look at this thing back in July. Okay, why weren't they calling for these things back here in July? Okay, but now they're calling for it. So that's the problem that I have with a lot of these. All right, we missed it, and we have to accept that. I mean, I didn't get into, 99% of these coins. We missed it. But it doesn't mean that there won't be any more opportunities. But the best time to get into these things is when everyone hates them. Kind of like the way Nikola looks right now, right? Like Nikola. Look, that's not a liked stock. That's kind of hated right now. I mean, it's not breaking highs. It's on its low again. If it makes that lower low, people are going to be banging it out. And maybe the company's having some problems right now. But what people don't anticipate is, the company starts to improve things, and next thing you know, this thing is, on everyone's radar. So this is when you have to pay attention to them, when no one else is. So that's what I have to say about that. Okay, I think I got my stream working again. I mean, or Comcast is letting me run my stream again. Thanks, Comcast. All right, so, okay. Right, so you're in. So he basically says he's in Tezos. Okay, cool. So, maybe you're staking it or whatever it is. And if you're in something like this and you're in from a good price, there's really nothing to do. You're in a consolidation, and hey, if it goes to the low and breaks that low, I mean, that's a risk that you take. But it can also break the consolidation high, and the structure favors breaking the high of the range because the general trend is bullish, at least right now. Okay? So, all right, so let's see what else we have here. Okay. Some alt garb. Yeah, so a lot of these altcoins, they have some great, I mean, I've been watching more and more videos because of the whole NFT thing, and there's these stocks, these coins like AVAX, right? NFT stuff going on with that. I mean, this is, if you look at the videos that were produced in February on these things, right? It helps to explain why these things look like this. Because you'll have 300,000 people watching or 300,000 views on these videos, and all these people are piling into it because the guru is saying, oh, buy AVAX because it's going to 10x in 5 days and blah, 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 right? And then you get caught in it. So it's just all one big herd mentality. And these things move together as a group in general, an entire space. We saw this with the NASDAQ stocks 20 years ago. Okay, NASDAQ stocks in the year 2000, in the year 1999 could do no wrong. In fact, you'd go out to like a restaurant and you'd hear people talking about NASDAQ stocks. Okay, today when you go out, I mean, you can't go out anymore, but when you do, you don't hear people talking about altcoins, at least not around here. But back in the day, you would hear people talking about stocks, okay, NASDAQ stocks. And most of those stocks, as promising as they were, and they had all these great ideas and blah, 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 they all went to zero. Most of them you don't know about. There's a few that still exist today, but many of them don't. So you have to watch out for that. And that's why you can't pile into all of these. There's some projects that may have some promise, but things change. And that's what you have to watch out for. Technology changes. Something that may be good right now may get something better may come out. Okay, I mean, look at all these alternatives to Ethereum that are competing to be the new Ethereum, right? Some of them may be more efficient. Some of them maybe do this, but some of them lower the costs. And you're like, well, that makes sense. Why wouldn't that do better? It's lowering the costs. Right? But Ethereum was out first. So people know Ethereum, right? So marketing has a big thing. Marketing has a big effect on all this. Those are things to keep in mind with the success of these coins, no matter how great the technology is. Way back when, there was something back when we had VCRs and stuff, which, you know, was like a video recording thing where you put a videotape in and play it, or you can record stuff. You had VHS tapes, okay? And there was something called beta cam, or beta, they had these beta tapes. They tried to market beta to the retail sector, right? They tried to market, but it never stuck. Beta was better than VHS. It was higher quality and all this other stuff, but it never stuck because their marketing sucked. Meanwhile, VHS, which was inferior, is what everyone had. Everyone had a VHS player, okay, and VHS tape. It was like half-inch tape or whatever it was, and that was a function of marketing. So beta, it didn't go away. It was used in the industrial sector, right? So if you were doing industrial video, you used Betacam tapes, pretty much, right? I guess they held more information. They were just a higher quality at the time. So something to keep in mind with these coins. All right, anyway, so that's my rant on that. Let me see what the DJ puts on. Yeah, wait until Starlink puts Comcast out of business. That's what I'm waiting for. All right, so please check garbage coin XRP. Sure, garbage coin. I like that. Shay Shank knows my Shay Shank must watch a lot of my videos. Okay, so XRP. Again, so this one, you know, some hype goes in and out of this thing. It's not really doing anything right now, right? Now, look at this. So you're in the middle of this range. I know they had some negative news not too long ago, but that obviously didn't put it out of business, right? It came back and now it's consolidating. So, you know, what do you do with something like this? If you're in from a lower price, I mean, it would make sense to just unload some, get out of some, because this thing can go either way from here, right? Obviously, they're going to need some positive news. I mean, it's one of the larger cap coins and this and that. You do have a higher low developing here, but the thing is, technical analysis is not as effective in a lot of these coins when they're following something else. So, you know, I can't put a lot of weight in this and say, oh, well, there's a higher low here and it should go higher. It doesn't really mean anything because these things, you know, they're really going to be more dependent on Bitcoin. And this thing hasn't really been doing anything. So I suspect that unless they have their own news, something to really drive this thing, if Bitcoin sells off and Bitcoin takes out 50K, and starts to, you know, pull back and make everyone uncomfortable, this thing is probably going to go faster, right? That's relative weakness. So that's how I would treat that. I wouldn't be optimistic about this thing. Again, some news can come out and change things, but it's a gamble, right? And the chart isn't going to really help us determine that. You know, unless you're an insider and you know something that we don't, I would be very careful with something like this. Then the chart really isn't telling us anything here. Okay, so thanks for mentioning that garbage coin. And Shay Shank had another one. What was the other one you had there, Shay Shank? Okay, hold on. It's true. Where is he? Okay, BCH. Okay, so BCH, I don't know why anyone gets involved in this. So you have a lower high right here. Okay, this one has been a horrible performer relative to Bitcoin. Calling itself Bitcoin for one, this thing, when Bitcoin was pushing 60K or whatever, 57K, this thing should have been taking out this high over here, 744. Should have done that. Instead, it rallies to this old resistance back here and fails, right? We have the inside candle, took out the low, and now look what it's doing, right? Looks like you have a lower high developing. So structure is bearish. I don't like the structure at all. And you can argue that this thing is a head and shoulders pattern, which is a bearish pattern. All right, so I don't like it at all. I wouldn't touch this thing long. If you're in it and you know you're in it from a better price, now would be a good time to reduce risk. I wouldn't be putting on more. Okay, so supports to wait for on something like this if you're interested in it. For what is that? 446, around there, the 450 area. That would be a good place to consider it if you were going to consider, you know, a long. And again, that's for a swing trade, and it'd have to confirm. Okay. The other support on something like this would be all the way over here, which is around what, 377. So you figure around 380-ish, around there, the low 380s. That's where I'd look for that, for those supports. Right now, I would not be, you know, this is a place to get out, not get in. All right, so thanks for bringing that one up. Let's see what else we got here. I'm catching up here in the chat. Ramana, can you look at this stock? So Meso, yeah. So Ramana, earlier in the stream, I answered, because I answered your question. You put it in our premium chat, so I answered it right away. So if you go earlier in the stream, I talked about it. So you can go back. That's why I have all these blue boxes all over it, because I explained it there. So thanks for asking. Okay, so Mel, alts for. Right. See, so Mel, I mean, you have the right idea as far as you realize these are high risk and these are not high quality investments. They're just not. You know, that some of them are trying, like I said, with this whole staking thing. But you know what? That whole staking thing, I'm very suspect of it, because why can't you run a pyramid scheme off of something like that? You tell everyone, yeah, we're staking, blah, 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 and you collect a bunch of money and then you pay out the first level of investors. I mean, that's a pyramid scheme. So why can't they do that? I'm sure with the blockchain stuff you should be able to verify that it's not, but I don't know. I think it opens up a lot of opportunity for schemes and scams. So I don't know. And plus, here's the other thing you have to consider, right? So some of these, like I think it was VeChain, one of them has like 8% payment, right? Staking reward, or basically interest. We can think of it as interest. 8%. That sounds like a lot, but that's a lot if you put $100,000 in there, right? What do you get? Who's going to put $100,000 or $200,000 or $500,000 into something like VeChain? Now, maybe if you're a billionaire and you're like, all right, sure, yeah, why not? But if $100,000 is like in your savings, that's your savings, you're not going to put $100,000 into VeChain. So maybe that's like for these venture capitalist guys who just have money to throw around, and 8% is an attractive number, right? Because it's better than the stock market on the average. It's much better than bonds, risk-free bonds, but VeChain is not risk-free. So that's the thing you have to consider with that staking. That's why that staking doesn't impress me at all. Like, oh, I'm getting interest, I'm getting 8%. A bank won't pay me 8%. Right, but how much money are you going to put into one of these altcoins? You're crazy if you put in more than 50% or 10, even more than 20% of your net worth into these things. That's a major gamble. It may work out, but not a good idea, especially if you're older. Okay, so thanks for bringing that up. Okay, and by the way, on that point, let me see how I'm doing, because I'm going a little longer today because of all that technical problem, and I appreciate everyone's patience. But one thing I wanted to say about like investing and making money investing, and we had a nice example of this earlier in our chat today. You know, one of our members made some really nice money on that Upstart move, that earnings play on Upstart, and she didn't risk a lot of money. Okay, she bought one call option, and she made 10 times what our subscription is. Okay, our yearly subscription. Now that's really how you make money in this game. She took very little risk and she got a big reward, right? So if it didn't work out, she would have lost a little bit of money. People do the opposite. People take big risks because they want to get even a bigger reward, but the risk is enormous. And if it doesn't work out, which is there's a pretty good chance it doesn't, now you got problems, right? So the idea is to take small risks and have them pay out big. And paying out big means you risk $100 and it pays out $1,000, right? That's a nice payout on a $100 risk. You keep doing that, then things start to add up, and you didn't have to take a lot of risk. But people are they're risking, they have a $3,000 account and they're risking $1,500. You can't risk 50% of your account on things and expect to get anywhere. Anyway, so I just wanted to throw that in there. All right, so let me see what else we got here. So DJ, oh no, how about RENUSD? RENUSD. So same situation, right? We have, and this is on Coinbase. So this is a consolidation, broader trend bullish. Now look at this. So when everyone was hyping their heads off, right, a few weeks ago, a month ago, and all those YouTube videos about all these great coins and everyone's going to be rich in a week, how many people are caught from those levels? And look what it's done since. I wonder what these same people are saying now. Oh, well, it'll come back. Just have to give it a little more time. Well, hopefully it comes back. But right now, you're in a range. It's consolidating. Now, in a situation like this, the broader trend is bullish. These type of consolidations are typically tend to be trend continuation patterns. So I would expect a breakout to start pushing higher if this thing can catch its momentum again. The problem is, the price action at the moment, and how much is this thing? It's like $1.10. The charts aren't going to be as reliable when it comes to price action, so you can't really go by this. This is a bearish pin bar, so it implies that you're going to be seeing some slightly lower prices, but you're in a range. And obviously this thing doesn't really trade on its own. So what is it trading along with? Obviously, a lot of these things are breaking away from Bitcoin. I mean, here's Bitcoin pulling back a bit. It seems that this thing's sort of following Bitcoin, so maybe Bitcoin is still the leader. You have to see. But that's how I would treat this right now. Again, I don't like these for swing trades. Okay, I suspect a lot of them, the party is over. There's been many of these from way back when that just after they had their run, the party was over and they didn't come back in the second wave. Now, here, I just remembered someone had a question about IOTA, which reminds me of that situation. So here's IOTA, right? Internet of Things. And like for the longest time, like forget this big crazy move. For the longest time, look what this thing did, right? For the longest time, I mean, going back a year, this thing ranged between like 8 cents and like 34 cents, okay? For the longest time. And then you had this, okay? Because I guess the hype machine started and everyone bought into this thing. So, a lot of times after they do something like this, the party's over, right? And maybe if we get another wave, it'll continue. But we're going to need leadership. If Bitcoin pulls back, right, these things, you're in these consolidations, and they all look the same, right? How many of these look like this? So this is what you have to watch for. If they break their range lows, if they break these range lows, like for IOTA, that would be, I guess, that 110 area. If they break their range lows, look out, okay? Because that means if the whole world is getting out of these things, it's going to be ugly because the whole world is in these things right now. So you have to be careful of that. That's all I have to say. Technically, there's really nothing else to say. It's in a consolidation. The broader trend is bullish. In theory, it should break higher unless there's no leadership. Okay, so that's what you have to watch for. You cannot rely on these things by themselves. Watch Bitcoin, watch Ethereum. Those are pretty much the leaders. All right, so let me see what else we got here. Okay. So I got Ren, okay, DJ. Oh yeah, that was the only other coin I had. Okay, other than ETH. All right, Shashank. On that time, BNB coin is high in price, so sold it, but it's gamble. Anything can happen. Oh, so BNB, right? Binance coin. Look, it's the same deal. Same deal, right? Everyone piled into Binance coin. Again, they have all kinds of, Binance, I don't understand how anyone can use that platform, especially for like day trading and stuff. I don't understand. That platform, the user experience, I don't know who put that thing together, but it wasn't a trader, okay? That thing's a mess. There's so much stuff. It's so disorganized. To find information that you need to make trading decisions, it's very difficult. And instead, they load it up with like bells and whistles, kind of like a slot machine, just stimulating you to do things, right? It's a slot machine. They need to rethink that one. I don't know. But I guess if they're catering to the herd and they want the herd to trade, well, I guess they're doing the right thing. But I think it's a really poorly built platform when it comes to active trading. For investing, hey, you have no choice. Fine. You place your orders on there, you do what you have to do. But do not use any of that information. It's mostly useless. Okay, so as far as Binance coin goes, same deal. All right, same deal. Consolidation. All right, let me see what else we got here. Bitcoin having a crazy day again. So, all right, Stephen, hold on, Stefan. Now, Mel is asking, thanks, I'm enjoying your point of view. Okay, Mel, so hold on. ETH, I didn't do ETH yet. Let me cover ETH. But Stephen, I want to address what you just said. Okay, so let's go to Ethereum. Hold on. Let's pull up Ethereum here, and oh no, I don't have it on this list. Okay, hold on. Let me just pull up Ethereum. Is it over here? No, hold on. I got a lot of things that I watch. All right, so here's Ethereum right here, right? And here's I have some old levels on there. So Ethereum failed to make that higher high. Now, Litecoin did a similar thing. That's a red flag because this thing should be doing better than Bitcoin or at least equal to Bitcoin. Now remember, Bitcoin made that higher high at 61K and then it failed. Ethereum never made the higher high. So that's a sign of relative weakness. We had a very similar situation in the stock market with the S&P versus the NASDAQ, right? The S&P was on its high, NASDAQ lower high. Relative weakness, which means when the leader turns, the one that's weaker should turn faster. And what's happening right here is you have this little mini head and shoulders, and you're at this range high area. This is a horrible place to be buying this thing. Okay, so for those that don't know any better, this is not where you buy Ethereum. No matter what your favorite YouTube guru says, this is not a place to buy it. No matter how optimistic or hopeful they are, no matter how many projects are coming out and all that other nonsense. Technically, this is a high risk area, especially with Bitcoin trying to pull back like it's doing. Now, if Ethereum takes out this 1700 area, this where all these little tails are on these candles, that's a support that's holding right now. If it clears that, I would suspect Bitcoin is also taking out a support. Perhaps it's taking out the 50, what is it, the 56, 55, 54K area support. I would suspect it's doing a similar thing. The next support you have on this thing is around 1500. That's what you have here. That's what the chart says. Will it get there? I don't know. But I suspect that that support will correlate with the 50K level on Bitcoin, or perhaps the 48K support on Bitcoin. So I would use Bitcoin as the guide on this thing. But right now, this is a double top developing. Now, can this thing find support and turn and break higher? Yes, it can do that, because you can still argue, you can make an argument that this is a consolidation. But Bitcoin is going to have to be the factor that decides that. Okay, so just something to keep in mind there. So in terms of swing trade reward risk, I don't like it. It's too risky. I prefer a higher probability support, and we just don't have one right now. If you're an investor, I mean, what do you do here? If you're an investor and you're in it from lower prices, it doesn't hurt to lock in profits, because if it's going to pull back, why not? Why not take something off the table? Or if you just want to let it ride, you let it ride. If you're in from a great price, you know, what do you care? If you're looking to get in now, you might as well wait. Okay, that's how I would treat that one. Thanks for bringing that one up. Let's see what else we got here. So Ethereum. All right, so Steven says Bitcoin having a crazy day today. So Steven, so what do you mean crazy day? Well, what's crazy about this? Because I just like to hear from your perspective. Are you maybe you're looking at it from a smaller time frame? Because this isn't really crazy yet. Okay, this is actually just, it's a hesitation off of this reversal zone, and it could turn into a sell signal. But this isn't crazy, not from the daily time frame. Now, crazy would be, you know, you get a move like this right here, where it moves, you know, 3, 4, 5,000 points in one day. Right now, this is only minus 1,300 points. That's a small move, relatively speaking. So I wouldn't call it crazy. What are you going to think when it gets to 50K? So that's what you have to keep in mind. It could sell off, but maybe it won't. Only it can tell us. If it takes out today's low, which, you know, we still have some time before it closes. Today's low is at 57,000. So when the new bar opens, if it takes out 57,000, that's a new sell signal. And then we have to see where it goes from there. All right, so I answered that question. Cool, thanks for mentioning that. DJ, BNB had a DT, and then at that point I sold it, but I got a single, okay, still made money, okay. Why you always say we don't short, okay, so Shayshank, oh, okay, no problem, DJ. All right, so I'll answer Shayshank's question there, and then I'm going to wrap this up, because it's time, and I think I made up for that troublesome connection I had there. All right, so DJ, don't short Bitcoin for 2 reasons. One, we don't use leverage, because leverage makes things a lot riskier. So we don't use leverage in this space. We just, you know, everything for us is 1-to-1. So that right there prevents us from shorting Bitcoin. For 2, these things are unregulated. So that's an extra risk you have to take. You know, after the fact, it looks good. Like, oh yeah, you shorted Bitcoin and blah, blah, blah. And if you're day trading Bitcoin or something, I can understand it would make much more sense. But we're swing trading, so we're in the trade for a much longer period of time, and there's a lot that can go wrong. And especially since there's no regulation, this market can easily be manipulated, and there's really not much you can do. So that's why we don't get caught up in that. Secondly, or I should say thirdly, you don't have to trade both sides of the market to make money in this game. We've been long only. We've never sent out, and DJ can tell you, we've never sent out a short trade on Bitcoin or any altcoin. So you can be long only and still do fine in this game. You don't have to trade both sides. A lot of times trading both sides, what you tend to do is, if you lose some money, then you say, I'm going to make it back. So you try to get short because, maybe you got shaken out and you're like, okay, it's going to go lower. And you start shorting these little bearish candles only to get run over, right? Only to get squeezed out, and then you miss the broader short. It's just not worth it. So that's why, we just stick to one side. Works fine, and our record shows that. All right, so thank you for asking that question. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I think I've answered everyone's questions. I want to thank you all for your great participation and your patience, because my internet connection sometimes gets funky because of the weather, and so I appreciate the people that stuck it out and it worked out okay. So hey, again, if you're new to GreenBridge, register for the channel, press the like button, gives me good feedback. Check out greenbridgeinvesting.com. All the links are in the description below this video, so you can check that out if you'd like to sign up for a free trial or see what we do, or just come by our free chat room. We also have Trade of the Week, which was Dot, right? We should have called Henry's, but watch. Next time we'll call Henry's and it won't go anywhere. Anyway, all right, you guys, so thank you so much again for watching. If I missed your question, I apologize. Come to our free chat room. You can ask it there, and we'll answer it there. All right, so enjoy the rest of your day, or enjoy the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world, and thank you so much for watching.